We could all bow. Oh, thank you. Father God, thank you for this time we have before us. Thank you for the time that we get to come together, spend with each other, share wisdom so that we can do the business and the work of the people. We ask that you bless the minds of all of those up here and elected officials, bless the minds of all of those in our community so that we continue to make the lives of all of our citizens better each day. In your son, Jesus' name, we do pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Perfect. With that being said, we will open with approval of the current agenda. So the adoption of the May 3rd, 2023 regularly scheduled minutes. Any additions or subtractions? If there are none, we'll open it for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Here in a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes and the agenda is adopted. Before I move forward, I see Commissioner Harris is on, and Devani, can you shoot a text to Commissioner Roll? Okay. We will now move on to presentation to Georgia Cities Week contestant winners. City Manager McDuffie.
Here she is. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to present the information regarding our Georgia Cities Week celebration. It was held during the week of April 23rd through the 29th. Of course, this is a Georgia Municipal Association sponsored and supported event where it encourages cities to engage and educate its citizens on city governments and how impactful it is on their lives. So we had a large amount of activities throughout the week. We had a recycling event, a food drive, a blood drive, blood pressure checks. We had a photo contest, a historic walking tour for downtown Brunswick, safety vehicle display, youth essay contest, a youth art contest, and a citywide cleanup that culminated on the Saturday, the 29th, I believe. We also had an employee appreciation on Friday, and I'd like to just thank all of the employees who not only participated in that, but also the ones that organized the Georgia Cities Week activities. I want to thank Keep Golden Owls Beautiful, who helped us with our cleanup. And there were just a number of people who supported the events. Thank you all for your participation and support. And at this time, I would like to recognize some of our winners. First place, and this is for our essay contest winners. Third place, I'm sorry, is Alyssa Rivera. All who is here, if you all would step up to the front when I call your name. Some of our contestants are not present. Second place was Deandra Thorpe. And first place was Narana Hughes, or Nariana Hughes. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for being here. Oh. Okay, well, we have your. Yeah. Okay, no. Thank you. Here you go. Okay, for the secondary student winners, Our third place winner was Sophia Bravo, who is unable to attend. Second place was Maria Bravo, who is unable to attend. And our first place winner is Camille Gray. Yeah, I let them take a picture because later on when they, show that picture, they'll say, I took a picture with the mayor, and I don't want them to have to say, who is that lady? No. Okay, so the second awards are for our art contest. And as you can see, we have a presentation, lots of art that was done. We were thankful for the participation. The art contest winners are: third place was Alex Bravo. Second place was Madison Butler. Is she here? Okay, our first place winner is Dorian Hughes. Is Dorian here? Yeah. Oh, women. Oh, good. Yeah. The last awards were for our photo contest, and the third place winner was Kiakala Ntumbo. The second place winner was Mark Choi. Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go. Woo-hoo. One of our very own. Okay. All right, hold on. All right, our second place winner was Mark Choi. And our first place winner was Lori Parker. And I don't think she's here either. Thank you.
We want to thank everyone who participated in that. We have some beautiful art. I saw some beautiful renditions of flags, and we may be changing that city flag. We may have an alternate or something. It's looking amazing, but thank everyone for participating in that. We'll now move on to our public comment period, and we have a public comment from Mr. Michael Luff.
Is the audio working better this time?
I think that sounds a little better.
And the video, because the video wasn't any better last time. Okay, thank you for letting me be here. First, I've been here 3 times in this building. Last time, the last meeting, this time, and once back in 2014 when I was arrested for drunk in public, which I don't blame anybody about that but myself. I was sitting down on the street down here. Half my feet were out in the street, sitting on the sidewalk, laid back because it was cold out February 14. And the officer asked me if I could get up. Yeah, give me a little time. My legs bothered me. Okay. Well, sorry, I'm going to jail. For drunk in public, I spent 4 or 5 days in jail, which is unreasonable. And then plus I had to do 2 days of community service, which I worked for your county. That's when I found out a lot of the corruption going on around town. And to be honest with you, that happened a few months later, yeah. And the rest of it, I got respect for 99.9% of the first responders, the police and the fire department. When I was driving tow truck out in Southern California, I worked with both of them. And after about 6 months with the towing for the police department and the California Highway Patrol, they got to know you a little bit. They give you a skeleton key to the police cars. And we don't have to jerk the cars up on the tow truck. And the paramedics, firemen, I learned out there that it was 80% paramedic and 20% fire. And they used to come in our yard and practice with jaws of life. When I come back down here, I met a couple of firefighters. And I go, is it still 80% paramedic, 20% fire? Go, yeah, how'd you know that? I go, well, I worked with you guys out of California. Go, well, really, it's about 85-15 now. And jokingly, do you want me to start some more fires? Will you get more fires? Or he goes, no. Just joking with him. Anyway, next. I'm still concerned about that COVID payout. I asked somebody at the Blythe Island Convention, I call it the homeless convention on Blythe Island, about why city employees all got that. I'm a taxpayer, I'm your boss. Why didn't I get one? And I don't think all 100% of the employees all got shots. $70,000 wasted. Back to the homeless. As bad as it already is for them, you guys kicked them off the curb into the ditch, pretty much stepped on them. Now they don't have no place to go. There are some good homeless people that need help. I was one of them. I had help from the well. If you get some funding and help the well, if you reopen it, which I don't think you guys are going to let it open back there again, personally. But if you did, help them with fingerprinting and IDs, shows people that honest as they're there. No hangarounds out front, because that ruined a lot of it. I know that. For the stabbings, you guys, the homeless got blamed for a lot of the crime you guys said was going on. A couple of them I can see it, but it's not the well's fault. That's the person's fault. If you want to blame the stabbings and stuff on them, why not get the Salvation Army? They've had a couple of stabbings there. Brunswick High School, they've had a couple of stabbings there. Are those going to be places you're going to close next? No, just the well. You have all these gangs around town and stuff. You had to pick on the homeless gang. They can't defend themselves. And to come to code enforcement, I think you guys have had them targeting the well and the people where they hang out and stuff, and clean up bushes, whatever they're out around doing, having the code enforcement take care of that. I went down to talk to code enforcement one day about the flags, banners and stuff. That's just happened in the city. They're all over the place now. I asked him about that. Well, we're working on abandoning cars right now, letting other stuff go. Well, here I got a couple of pictures of abandoned cars. They're not doing that either. Somebody needs to be doing their job. The one I'm really disgusted with is the new Coastal Community Health on Ellis Street. They got a flag banner out there. I was a patient of theirs for 8 years. And when they transferred from the Perry Park Clinic down to here, I already had an appointment a year prior. The lady refused to see me because she said I needed to see a neurosurgeon for my seizure stuff. I've already been to one of them. This is BS. And I walked out. 2 days later, I got a certified letter. They don't want to see me anymore. I got fired from a doctor's office. And I went to see Dr. Kavanaugh. Told him about what was going on. He goes, well, we got good, bad. And I'll see what I can do. 2 weeks later, no answer. I called him back and said, I want a letter of an apology. Because if I'd known I had to get something with the neuro stuff, I could have went back to the main office, had to take care of. This would have never happened. But I got fired from the doctor's office. I don't have no help from them. They didn't help any of the homeless either. And I think on Blythe Island meeting, or since then, someone said Dr. Culpepper should put the well where he resides. I took that really offensive because any of the city council members, any city leaders, anything around here don't live in the city of Brunswick, live in the county of Glenn. We don't live in the city of Brunswick. I couldn't see that. And as a homeless convention, I call it, Blythe Island, they could have had it here somewhere in Brunswick. You guys are afraid of the homeless coming around to it? You had one speaker over at Blythe Island that was homeless or used to be homeless. Wasn't from Brunswick. They come from Savannah or Atlanta or something like that. You had to import a homeless person to tell his story. You have plenty of them right here. You could tell their story. Could have had me. I've been homeless. Well, I think that'll do for this week. I appreciate your time. I hope something hears.
Thank you, Mr. Luff. Now we'll move on from public comment to the public hearing period. The first thing that we have up is a new alcohol license for Matted Ox. The owner, there we go, Jason's here. The address is 1510 Bay Street, Brunswick, Georgia. On-premise consumption of beer and wine. How you doing, officer?
Good evening. We do have Mr. Jason, I'm going to say Jason K. I cannot pronounce his last name right. Here for Matted Ox. He will be on Bay Street for axe throwing. It's axe throwing. And he is looking for an alcohol license. Here he is.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Just a little bit about the business, just because we've been in the county. We operated at 760 Scranton Road, Suite 105 since July of 2021. We had a beer specialty shop, so malt beverages only, just because of the way the county is coded. And we're looking for opportunities to move downtown. We're open as of April 22nd was our first day on Bay Street, and looking forward to being able to add the beer and wine license as part of our overall entertainment.
Perfect. I guess the first question I have is just a base safety question. I can only imagine alcohol and axes. And so is there anything that you all do to ensure that you don't overserve? Yeah, I'm sure you all have to be a little more diligent than the normal place.
Thank you for the question. Just to address the safety side of axe throwing has grown over the last 5 years from probably a couple hundred venues across the country to over 5,000 venues across the country. Most all of those venues have alcohol in one capacity or another, and whether that's in a bring your own or service up to full liquor, to include our local area. So as you go to Savannah, go to Camden County, go to Jacksonville, even Waycross and Jessup all have axe throwing venues now, which is great. It's great for the industry. There's a lot of differences between axe throwing in different places, but the reason it's grown so well is because it is a safe, fun activity. So I'll just address that. We do a safety instruction with everybody that walks in. We instruct them on how to do it safely. We make sure they can do it safely, and then we're always monitoring that process. Now, as far as the alcohol portion of that, we absolutely are paying a lot of attention to what's going on. Beer and wine obviously doesn't have the quick in attack that liquor does, and we purposely stayed away from any even exploring that. But we absolutely do monitor it because we're maintaining safety of the lanes at all times. It's very easy for us to control to make sure no one's getting overserved.
What measurements do you have in place to ensure that patrons are carded, ID'd, making sure that you're not serving underage patrons?
Yes, ma'am. So my wife and I are both heavily involved in the business. We are both certified as far as alcohol service goes. And then in addition to that, we train all of our other employees. Our go-to is we card and then go from there. It is a family environment. We do see a lot of families. And so it's not strange to see underage. And so when alcohol comes into play, we definitely card. All the employees are trained on that. And my wife and I are almost there every single time that we're open, one of us.
What are your hours? What time do you close in the evening?
So right now we're Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday and Friday, we open at 6 p.m. And Thursday we close at 10. Friday, we close at 11. And then Saturday, we're open from 3 to 11. But we intend, as business grows, we intend to expand the hours as far as more days, not necessarily later in the day.
Okay.
We don't want to be super late. I'm tired. I want to go home.
Have you already went to the NPA, the Soul Glow NPA? So the Neighborhood Planning Association?
Because they meet every other month.
Okay.
They don't meet monthly. Mhm.
So no, ma'am, I have not. I wasn't sure what that was.
Okay, it's okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Yep.
Regarding, do you have any food service in your venue?
We do not. We do serve snacks. Typically, we have chips and candy that we sell, but we ask and we encourage people to bring food from other places, utilizing local restaurants. And just as an example, we had a private event last Friday before our normal open hours. So sometimes we open before in order to host events. It was from the mill, and they went and bought Fox's Pizza and brought Fox's Pizza over. So we're going to add to and continue to use our local businesses and our local restaurants to be able to bring food. We don't intend to bring food ourselves. Yes, sir. Right now, everything is inside. I do have a mobile trailer that we use on occasion, and I've done events at Mary Ross Park with the mobile trailer, but at 1510, everything is inside. Yes.
And what's the capacity?
91 was what the fire department put us at. I believe it's 91 or 92.
So will that be seated and standing, or?
It's both. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We do have seating. We can't seat 91. Like I said, we were almost open 2 years at our old location. We were 90 was our capacity. I think the highest we got was about 70, 75, and that was hosting the Glen Academy wrestling team sports banquet. And so we brought in extra tables to be able to host that.
And did you say anything about your hours?
Yes, sir. Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays. Thursdays we'll close at 10. Fridays we close at 11. Saturdays we close at 11.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions or comments? Hear none. The one thing that I would ask you to do, because I know First Friday is a big day.
Yes.
And we hope to see you be successful, and you're already very much in a restaurant kind of corridor, restaurant, bar, downtown kind of corridor. But as you move forward in the process and get through this, I would ask that you do go meet with the MPA and just have a conversation with them, let them know you've opened up, tell them about your business, and kind of same things you shared with us this evening. With that, I'll open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the license for on-premise consumption of beer and wine for Matted Ox.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much.
Officer isn't here. Okay. I just want to make sure. The second person is not with us this evening, so we will move them to the next meeting. All right. For the MPA. Okay. Gotcha.
I'll make a motion that we defer.
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. The item is deferred. Thank you. We'll now move on to updates. Annual update regarding Downtown Development Authority activities. Director Hill. Good to see you.
Good evening. It's good to see you all. And normally we would have been doing this in connection with the Main Street Memorandum of Understanding that comes out annually. DCA said that would probably be July before that came out. So we decided to go ahead and give the update part first, and then the MOU came yesterday. So I'll see you again in 2 weeks. There we go. Okay. For that. So this is our annual update of activities of the Downtown Development Authority and Main Street Brunswick. As some of you may know, we've been a Downtown Development Authority for 42 years now. And we have been a Main Street city for 37 years. 6 of those years, we have been a Georgia Exceptional Main Street. And I'm happy to say that we had our in-person assessment in March. I know a lot of you were up in Atlanta for the Atlanta visit. So I know the city manager and assistant city manager did get to meet and have lunch with the folks from DCA, which they were very appreciative of. But we are a Main Street designated city again for 2023, and we will renew our GEMS designation when it expires at the end of this year. So we're an exceptional Main Street again for another 3 years. In downtown in the last year, and you have I believe in your packet, you've got this. And I'll pass some of these out because I know online sometimes it's kind of hard to read. But we had 346 in-person events last year in the calendar year, attracting 108,000 people. And we expect our numbers for attendance to start getting more and more accurate now that the city has purchased Placer, which looks at cell phones and where they are in an area, so we can see during an event this many people were here. For instance, during the Zino Funky Fest, there were over 600 people in and out of that event throughout that day. So that's really exciting to us. And that was another reason that DCA felt we were doing well, was that we were looking at other ways of getting information. Over 4,600 volunteer hours for those events, and those have been increasing lately. I think people after COVID were looking for something to do outside the house. We had 30 building projects completed last year. Those ranged from new signage up to full building rehabilitation, and the cost of those were $3.8 million. The big projects, Port City Lofts and the Liberty Lofts, those were counted in the previous year. So you'll see our numbers drop a little bit from last year, but still that's a pretty good number. We had 4 public projects in the downtown area: Queen Square renovation, additional holiday lighting. We refreshed the planters only to have everything in the freeze. That we're working on getting new plants for those. And then we did purchase some new trash cans that you'll see going out downtown. And that was $208,000 worth of investment. There were no official new housing units because those too get counted when it's permitted. So, but we had 22 open that were part of those 2 projects I mentioned, Port City Lofts and the Liberty Building. And we'll have a few more this year because the Parker Kaufman Building is finished up now, and the Collier Building has residentials in it.
How many units will that one have? Collier
Building is 2.
I'm sorry, 2?
2. Because it's a 30-foot and it's not a long building. It's not a full-size building like the ones downtown. So it's only 70 feet deep.
Okay.
So that'll be residential up and commercial
down. Right. We had 28 new businesses open last year, creating 77 jobs. We did have Okefenokee EMS moved out of the downtown area, which was kind of a hit. That was 25 employees there. So we kind of lost some employees with that one business, but we got some back this year with Live Oak Fiber locating right downtown. So overall, public-private investment in downtown last year was $13,884,000. And if you look at the ratio of, for every dollar invested by the public, whether it's a grant from us or our budget or a grant from the city with the ARPA funds, there were $50 of private money put in. The national average for that last year was $24 of private investment for every dollar of public money. So we are way ahead of the national average for public-private investment. And that's another reason that the DCA continued to make us a Georgia exceptional Main Street. So,
what year did the GEM Georgia Exceptional Main Street start? When did that designation become official?
2017.
So we've had it since the get-go, right?
Well, there were a couple pilot cities that came in before that.
Okay.
We were also a pilot city this year for the new National Main Street program. Has a 6-point test for assessment rather than the 10 points they've had for 40 years. Mm-hmm. So, and that went fairly well. It's a little bit confusing because they they don't ask things they used to ask for years, but we're going to keep tracking those things because they're valuable information.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very good.
tried to keep this short so you're not here for a 9 o'clock meeting.
We appreciate that. And also just a quick question. I know the Funky Fest was an absolute hit. I think the Jordans did an amazing job. Obviously kind of, I think almost holding the brunt of that on their own.
Right.
I know there is a wealth of resources that we kind of use for Porch Fest. Yes, Porch Fest. I just want to make sure as we expand that we work with the Jordans as well as they work into next year to make sure they have city support, some financial support, and some other things, because I know that was them kind of doing that on their own, but it was such a success. I just want to make sure that we're a part of it.
Yes, we are. We've talked with them, and it did turn out to be a much larger thing than they had initially started. Right. So we did come in towards the event itself with some additional portalettes that we provided and security. So we're looking forward to next year.
Yes, sir.
I hope it's going to be an annual event.
I agree. Thank you.
Matthew, what's going on with the Peddlers building?
The Peddlers building is under renovation. He has a business that's going in there that will be complementary to other businesses downtown, but I can't say what it is yet. If you call me tomorrow, I can tell you.
And the Zell building, who's the new owner of the Zell building?
It's a company, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
Yeah, they're local.
Yeah, they've done a great job with the exterior.
I like the paint.
Yeah, it really looks good.
I couldn't see Carly Zell doing that. I could see him putting the sidewalk down, but not the paint.
Right, right.
Yeah, it looks great.
But there is interest from the building owner to have that sidewalk designated part of the National Landmark District. So
it's the Yorks.
The Yorks.
Yeah.
Right.
I knew the Portuguese laborers that came here and did that. They were building his house over on Sea Island when that happened.
Yep. All right. Okay. Thank you.
We'll now move on to discussion, preliminary presentation for the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget. City Manager McDuffie. Thank you.
Good evening again. Thank you for the opportunity to present the fiscal year 2024 proposed budget for the city of Brunswick. Of course, our budget is supporting all of our vital services that we provide to the citizens and residents and visitors of our community. Yeah. Next slide. The budget book, as you have in front of you, has the listing of our principal officials and updated. I'll just note that we only have one vacancy in our directors, which we will look to fill during the coming fiscal year. The next item is our the transmittal letter, which is just a brief synopsis of key information in the budget that talks about our revenues, proposed personnel changes, operational changes in our expenditures. The next item goes through a summary of what is included in the budget book, which includes the highlights and the schedule, a revenue summary, and I will review all of these items. Starting with the budget highlights for this year, the proposed general fund budget is $20,257,968, which is a 7.9% increase in expenditures, but it's and revenues, but it is balanced at this point. I am also proposing that we use $4.1 million of ARPA funds as revenue recovery to support some specific initiatives in the budget. and I will review those in detail. The revenues, of course, comes primarily from property taxes, sales taxes, and other taxes. The total taxes proposed in the budget or projected is $18.3 million, which represents 90% of our revenue. The budget revenues also include $550,000 of appropriated fund balance from our reserves. The main changes other than in the revenues is a decrease in our municipal court revenue and our building permit revenues. In our expenses, we have authorized personnel of 237, and I know it says in your book 240, but we had a last minute count and we actually have 237 authorized positions. The budget supports 206 budgeted positions. And of course, we have some additions with the recreation. We have one, and I'll go over those briefly as well. The key initiatives for the budget this year is housing development and community revitalizations. There are several items in the budget to support this initiative. Also, community engagement and outreach. Of course, the city administration and operation of recreation, and a startup for our public transportation. Additional highlights include $50,000 in funding for community engagement and community outreach, $45,000 for city elections, $50,000 in additional funding for boarding houses and the legal process that supports that, $50,000 for land bank, $100,000 for continued support of our police department and their recruitment and retention, $105,000 for equipment for fire services, and of course, over $1 million for recreation, operation, and grounds maintenance. The ARPA funds that we are putting in the budget for revenue recovery are designated $2.5 million for housing programs and development, $800,000 for business support, and that's basically what's already been allocated, but it's just being put through the budget. The Howard Coffin facility improvement, $600,000, and then $220,000 for our transit services. Next slide. Not quite. I think you're on the wrong one. You go back to the budget schedule. Okay, so the budget process started in March, and we go through our budget schedule. Phase one is basically the review and submission of the budget by the departments, and we go through department hearings. Phase two is our review of the budget and kind of balancing our revenues with our expenditures. And then, of course, phase three starts our final budget preparation, which begins with our presentation of the budget to the commission, which is today. Subsequent to that, we will have our request that we have a tentative budget approval on May 17th, and that is done so that we can provide public notice for our public hearing which is scheduled for June 7th. Of course, during that time, there will be other reviews of the budget. The public hearing is scheduled prior to our regular meeting on June 7th. And then we'll have the budget approval tentatively on the second meeting in June on the 21st to meet the state deadline before the end of our fiscal year on June 30th. Next slide. Okay, so I mentioned the revenues, and of course, as I stated, the city's revenues are primary property taxes, which is 37% of our total revenues, sales tax, which is 44%, making 81% of our revenues. Both of those items are very large items in our budget. We are very conservative on our projections. The property taxes are projected to be flat, even though our preliminary indication from the tax office is that we will see an increase in our property tax base. We did look at whether we could change our millage at this point, but we decided that with the addition of the $1 million for recreation, it would be difficult to do that right now. And again, we are asking to use $500,000 of our fund balance in order to balance the budget. Sales tax, we again projected that to be pretty much flat. If you look at it, it shows an increase, but it's not but a slight increase over what our actual revenue will be or should be for this year. So our revenue we're expecting for 2023 to be about $8.9 million, and we projected our sales tax at $9 million. So really not an increase in that. And basically, again, I like to be very conservative on our revenues because we don't want to overstate our revenues and get into a situation where we are not providing annual revenue to support our annual events. There were no other significant changes in the budget. We are, as I stated, using some of our fund balance. If you look at the bottom of your revenue page, it shows that the $20 million of budget is, as I stated, 7.9% increase over last year's budget, but it's only a 5% increase over what we actually collected in 2022. Moving to our expenditures. The expenditure budget, as I said, there were some key items included for community engagement, for community outreach. We will have a city election this year that will be $45,000, which is included in the clerk's budget. The city manager's budget has an increase because we are moving a position from IT, the PIO, Public Information Officer, to the city manager's budget. We have administrative services. You will see a $210,000 item, which that's the 3% increase. We didn't put it in the budget because we wanted to make sure it would be approved, and we will put it in the separate budgets later. We have additional money in the legal area, as I stated, to assist with legal proceedings for our demolitions, for our boarding of houses, for title clearances and things like that. We have an additional position that's being added to IT, an additional position for HR, and in the general administration, we have the $50,000 for the land bank. There were no significant changes in the police, fire, or public works, which is our largest area of operation. And basically, there were very little changes in those areas. There was a decrease in our cemeteries, which I wanted to assure Commissioner Kaysen that we were not, changing much. It's just last year we purchased a large piece of equipment in that area, so that doesn't show in the budget for this year. And then, of course, recreation is budgeted at over $1 million. And then parks and grounds maintenance, that increase is because we will have some contractual services. As you know, we have spent a lot of money on our parks, on our squares, and on our downtown, and we want to continue to maintain it at a level that will show, and kind of keep our investment intact. So that's basically the highlights in the expenditure budget. Again, our budget is projected at $20,257,968, a 7.9% increase. And I have charts in the budget that shows the revenue. Of course, as I stated, the chart shows that the sales tax is 44% of our revenue, property tax 37%, other taxes 9%, which is a total of 90% of our budget comes from tax revenue. That's one of the things we will continue to look for, is diversifying our revenues going forward. In looking at our expenditures, about 56% of our expenditures are from public safety and public works. Another 24% is for government administration and general administration. And then the rest of it is for parks and planning development. Next slide. Okay, that's the one I just went through. Next. Okay, So again, the ARPA money, and this is just a kind of a review to show you what we're proposing for the revenue recovery in the budget, what has been dispersed as of February, about $1.8 million, and then some of the allocations remaining. And the reason we left those allocations remaining is because I feel that those items will be dispersed before that 2024 deadline, December 31st. So we will probably, those items should be dispersed by that time. So that kind of gives a synopsis or summary of what our ARPA expenditures are proposed. Moving, next slide. Our cost of personnel is $13,439,921. As you can see, 77% of that is salaries. Another large chunk is for our retirement, which is 1.1 million. Total is about 66% of the budget. Next slide. Okay. So our authorized strength, again, is 37 full-time personnel, 9 part-time, and approximately 206 budgeted personnel in the budget. The next slide just goes through and shows a pie chart of the different areas, the fire and police. As you can see, fire, police, and personnel, public works, is about 180, I think 83 of the 237 positions. And then the next slide is the proposed changes, which include, as I mentioned, a position to support our HR, a position to support IT, and then the positions that we're proposing for the recreation, which includes 7 positions and then some part-time staff for seasonal and also staff for ground maintenance. And the budget does include increased salary costs for a 3% increase. As we move forward, the next information that you will find is a listing of our equipment, including vehicles, machine and equipment, and computers. That's pretty much about $500,000. It shows $698,575. About $140,000 of that is for software sort of maintenance. So it's not additional increase, but the equipment is itemized and it's about $558,000. Behind that, you will find the line item budget, which will include, it has a table of contents. And then behind the table of contents, there's about 8 pages of the revenues, which is basically a line item budget for the revenues for the city. And then behind that is the departmental budgets. And for each department, there is a summary, and you can just shut that off because it's just a summary for each department that shows the department description, a budget summary with the comparison of actual from 2022, approved budget from 2023, and what is proposed, and I didn't change that word, should be proposed for 2024. And then it has a listing of authorized positions, and some of them have the work plan and task and other information. But that will go through to the end, and throughout each department has a summary. The rest of the line items are just the line items of the expenditure budget. And of course, the budget is balanced, and we will be seeking preliminary approval at the next meeting. I will end there and entertain any questions.
Questions and comments?
I have a question. When do we anticipate getting our short-term rental ordinance and revenues generating from that?
Well, you know, we have already started getting revenue from that particular ordinance. I think we have been looking at a company, and I've talked to John about it, but the revenue this year, I think last year it was about $38,000, which is almost 3 times as much as it was the previous year. So we are seeing residuals. I think there was a question about use of a company for that, and we are still kind of trying to get through establishing a relationship to help with that particular process.
So that revenue that's coming in is really, I guess, self-directed. Those that were aware of the ordinance and went ahead and started complying.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then do we have any kind of a report, or can we get a report if it's not too soon, on the tax allocation district revenue?
I will check into that.
Okay.
That's something that, yeah, we were going to look at, because we have to figure out how much money will be generated from that. And that'll be part of our other funds that we'll report. We should have those for the next meeting.
Okay.
So we'll be able to give you more information.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Harris, I don't want to move by this moment.
I'm good. I'm just listening.
Okay, good deal. City Manager McDuffie, thank you for this work. I know we'll have plenty of time to continue to go through the budget with you. It's just the initial presentation. So I appreciate the work that you've done on it.
Thank you.
It's a good presentation. I will say that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Always a big effort.
Oh, by the way, I did ask some of our department heads, you know, they were very integral in putting together the budget. Want to recognize Miss Mills, who, you know, every time I called did answer the phone, and I did call a lot. So we worked really, really well together to put the budget together. I hope that the departments are satisfied, and, you know, nobody has said they weren't. And I think they're scared, even if they were. But thank you so much.
Thank you all. And thank you to staff as well. Thank y'all. With that, we'll move on to items to consider for approval. Consider approval of April 19th regularly scheduled minutes. We'll open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 19th, 2023 regular schedule meetings if there are no adjustments.
Hearing the first, you'll hear second.
Second.
Hearing the first and second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Consider approval of financial reports as of March 31st, 2023. Director Mills.
At that point, we are 3/4 of the way through this fiscal year. We're paying the revenues after expenditures for March of $11 million, year to date $4.6 million. We have a cash balance on hand about $11.5 million in the general fund. The loss distribution, we are up 10.35% for the month of March from the previous year. Year to date, we are up 9.68%, and that equates to a dollar amount for the year of $602,000. Next page has clause 6. See the page on the left, cash on hand as of March 31st, $2.3 million. I will not go over all of the projects. We have only like a few projects left that have not been finished, and we are still working on spending those funds down. Next page, we got Mortar Street Promise. There's been no activity in that fund for the year other than interest income every month. There is a cash balance of $346,000 in that fund. Roosevelt Harrison Multi-Purpose Center Fund. We have total inflows of $335,000, expenditures of $301,000, a cash balance in that account of $3,600. We are trying to touch the budget on the transfer from the general fund to fund the Roosevelt Harrison. We have increased that a little for the upcoming budget year, but a lot of times we get additional funds at the end of the fiscal year, so we have to get that back to where it will hopefully break even there. See the ARPA funds. We had total funds received $9.3 million. We have extended $2,067,000 So roughly we have spent approximately $2 million. We still have $7 million on hand. And I know City Manager McDuffie has talked to you about what we're planning to do with that coming up in this next fiscal year. We still have most of the same initiatives that we're going to pay for. We're just going to be going through the general fund directly. You can see on the right hand side of the allocation spent what we have already spent, which comes up to $2 billion. And a good bit of that's spent on road improvements. The next page is the sanitation fund. We have total revenues over expenditures of $1.2 million. There's a cash on hand balance of $736,000. The amount we have spent for trash pickup and the other things that relate to sanitation, $143,000 for the month, $1,152,000 year to date. Those run about the same every month. Stormwater utility, we have inflows of $1.3 million, outflows of $1.2 million, and a balance in cash of $586,000 or $585,000. There were no expenses in the month of March for animal control, traffic control, or recreation department for the facilities managed by the county. Then you can see the year-to-date numbers there. Roosevelt Lawrence Center on the last page, we have total expenditures of $18,000 for the month of March. Year-to-date numbers under $7,000, and you can see the majority of expenditures there are related to salaries for Roosevelt Lawrence. Have any questions about it? Now I'm glad to answer that question.
Any questions?
I'm good.
Hearing none, we'll open it for motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the reading as our finance director read it to us.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director Mills. We'll move on to consider approval of purchase of All-Tech dump truck with 1998 Georgia Local Government Equipment Lease Pool. Director Mills.
This is the electric truck, which was in the budget, and we had paperwork with the lease program. That, if you remember, we have several purchases that we've made in the past several years with the lease purchase or lease approval from GMA. It has a 5-year payback period. The cost of that dump truck is $196,768. The funds are in the budget. It will the GMA leases. We make one payment a year of principal, and that is always done in November. This will be a principal payment of a little over $39,000 over the next 5 years. Generally, it's sort of a complicated program that I think we make an interest payment every month, but then there's funds invested on the other side. It settles up in November every year, and most years we end up actually paying no interest at all because the earnings are more than what the interest payments were during the year. So it's been very profitable for us and helpful. I will just make a comment that this program ends 11/30/2027. So we are now at the point, since the payments were made in November, this payment will end November 30/2027. And so anything we do pretty much after this, we can still use the program, but any repayments would have to be done by November 30/2027. So we did something next year, it would be a 4-year payback. The next year would be 3-year payback. This program has been very helpful to us. So we're going to get this one more in there at least for the dump truck.
It says dump truck. I was just questioning that. It is a bucket truck. Altec makes a bucket.
Will there be any other new programs available that GMA might?
Mayor asked about that, and I think he's going to do some talking.
Okay.
GMA about it. And I do think that the gentleman there, when he was telling me when it was going to end and how it would happen, he said they were looking at some things, but you know, I think that when this program is completed, I think there's like 38 of us that are in this program. I think there's just something really new. It was from 20 years ago that they set this up. Well, anyway, it was fairly new, not a lot of the city, because there are some school boards and all that, it wasn't just cities, but there were not a lot of participants. So I guess it's new. They didn't really know what this, you know.
But I would have to say it has been one of the programs that has been very successful.
Yeah.
Because like Kathy said, on most years, it's been no cost financing. And the city has not paid any interest where, you know, in other, I guess, financing mechanisms we would have. So I would like to see GMA reconsider, you know, I guess reinstating or improving and having a certain system, because not only, I mean, for us, it's very, very helpful. For smaller cities, I'm sure it's just as, you know, helpful to them as well.
They need to do a better job of selling the program if they need more participants. I mean, if that's.
Well, actually, I don't know, but they had, again, so much funding in the program that the interest always paid for itself. So, you know, and we benefited greatly from it. So I don't know if we want.
How it works.
Well, let's buy two. Let's buy two. I mean,
maybe we don't have to understand it. We just need to make sure it continues.
Right. At first I thought, okay,
yeah.
And I know we talked during the finance meeting, and I'm going to reach out to GMA's leadership to talk about what change in the program or what they have planned. With that, we'll open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to borrow the funds to purchase the Altech bucket truck to be repaid over a 5-year period.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director Mills. We'll now move on to number 9. Consider approval of renewal of general liability and property insurance with Georgia Interlocal Risk Management Agency. Miss Veely, how you doing?
Doing well. How are
Wonderful.
You? It is that time again. I come before you every May, and we do this. I'm requesting that you approve the renewal of our general liability and property insurance. A little bit of history. We renew our liability and property insurance coverage annually. The insurance is through GERMA, and the city participates in the GMA GERMA pool for insurance coverage. Fred McGinney of Oak Bridge Insurance is our local broker and represents the city to ensure maximum coverage for the best value. Oak Bridge Insurance has secured the GERMA premium renewal for the coverage period, which began May 1st. But with your approval tonight, they will bind the insurance as of May 1st. Our coverage period actually runs from May 1st to April 30th. Premiums increased this year from $416,900 to $444,736, which is an increase of 6.7%. This increase reflects a dividend credit of $8,890 that we received from GERMA, one of the benefits of being part of the pool. The law enforcement liability, and you might want to glance at, there is a schedule in your packet that GERMA prepared for us, an Excel spreadsheet that compares the coverage from one year to the next. The law enforcement liability decreased from $70,916 to $65,078, which is an 8.2% decrease. The decrease reflects a law enforcement initiative credit of $16,270. The general liability portion of our insurance increased from $55,532 to $62,362, which is a 12.3% increase. The public officials liability increased from $76,837 to $91,950, which is a 19.7% increase. Crime and fidelity increased from $3,752 to $4,317, 15.1% increase. Automobile liability increased from $109,648 to $113,182. And auto physical damage increased from $43,517 to $46,061. Property and equipment coverage also increased from $61,223 to $66,586. The GERMA management fee remains the same at $13,500, and the fee that will be due to Oak Ridge Insurance increased by $750 from last year. It will also be $13,500. This is a combined total of $27,000 for management fees. The total budgetary cost is $471,736. This includes the fees. The fiscal year 2023-2024 budget will provide adequate funding for the renewal. It is my staff recommendation that we renew this policy as written.
So help me understand how increases and decreases work across different topic or different headings, whether it has to do with the number of employees or if it has to do with the number of claims last year, or is it all different?
It's different factors. You'll notice there is a column, that rating basis column. Each level of insurance has a different factor, if you will. So for instance, general liability, they're looking at reported payrolls year to year. Also, public officials liability, they base that on payrolls year to year. Our payroll, there's an error in our spreadsheet. It says a 0% change. There wasn't a 0% change. It actually increased 9.8% from one year to the next. So that's one of the factors that they look at. And then they look at what's going on in the market, what's going on as far as in the state of Georgia, claims. One of the things that I got when I was in the process of doing, there's a packet that you have to fill out when you're in the process of doing the renewal. And it is based on things that are going on in the state of Georgia. And then we got an email that said their goal was to hold everyone to a 10% increase this year based on experiences in the state of Georgia, based on inflation cost, settling claims, increased auto vehicle claims, and that sort of thing. So it's a number of things that are going on.
Now, what would happen if our police and fire employees were to increase by 10 over the year? Do we get hit with an adjustment or?
Not within this year,
okay.
But next year, if our payroll or if our number of officers were to increase, then that would be a factor in our premium going
okay.
up.
Thank you.
Yes. And I will say, because this is a question that's been asked in the past, the property values. We have a CBIZ valuation every 3 years, and this is our year for valuation. So our property values have not varied much from year to year. I I think that they increased it by applying an inflation factor, but they haven't actually come and looked at our properties. And I expect them to schedule that sometime this fall to do that. So that will have a bearing next year on insurance.
Mm-hmm. So they'll revalue each of the
revalue
city
everything. Yes, ma'am.
properties. Okay.
It's a very involved process and report.
That's where Mr. McGinney will really help.
Yes. He helps in many ways all year long.
See, he was hiding back there.
I was going to say, I thought I saw him somewhere. He is hiding.
He's back there.
If you can hide in a red shirt, right?
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Here none. I just had one quick comment. And I think I asked this last time, so there'll be two questions. One, the raise in the premium on public officials just seems extremely high. And I see that they are then making that assessment based off of payroll. And so my first question was, is it naturally made off of the payroll of the entire city or the council or the size of the council? It's always the entire city. And so that's for every
basis. We do it on a calendar year basis.
Okay.
The entire city.
And the percentage raise, is this a median raise kind of across all cities, or did they somehow singularly evaluate Brunswick to come up with that change?
This is our actual payroll numbers.
Okay.
Our actual payroll increased 9.8% from calendar year.
Okay. So payroll is the only thing that goes into making that assessment for them.
It may not be the only thing. Like I said, there are a number of factors. This is the quantifiable factor that they got from us, from our historical data.
Right.
But there may also be going on, we've got things going on in the marketplace.
Yeah.
They're seeing, I think they're seeing more litigation within the state.
That's what I was going to ask, is how much of that's related to litigation.
But it is just based on what they've seen, claims that they've had in the pool within the state of Georgia.
Okay. And so their basis is that they use outside of just payroll. It's kind of looking at the whole market. They're not just singularly saying, okay, Brunswick officials were X, Y, and Z. So that's just a market rate kind of view.
Spread the risk.
Okay.
Is that right, Fred? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, ma'am. It's based on their loss experience with Brunswick as a whole for official liability over the past 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And fortunately, the city has not had any significant official liability claims. But apparently, the claims history for the rest of the state has not been as good as the city was.
Okay.
It's a shame the Brunswick News isn't here to write
So
that.
we bear the brunt.
They could cover that.
Okay, perfect. Any additional questions? If hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to renew the general liability and property insurance in the amount of $471,736.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank
Healy.
you.
We'll now move on to consider approval of the Community Development Block Grant Fiscal Year 2023 Annual Action Plan. Director Bravo. Just for a question.
Sure.
There was a lot of bravos in the awards. Is that your?
We are related. Yes, we are.
Okay. All right. That's I just wanted to make sure that was the same family. Congratulations.
There was no conflict of interest. So yes, they are related.
That's it.
First, thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Mayor Cosby, for allowing me the time to present to you for the CDBG program. I'll be brief and to the point since I'm the last one. Today, like every year, I'm presenting to you the fiscal year 2023 for the CDBG program that the city has. Just a little background. The city of Brunswick is an entitlement city, so therefore we don't have to compete for funding under the CDBG. These are funds that come directly from HUD. We're kind of unique in that sense, so that's a great advantage because we can expect a specific amount every year. For the past couple of years, we've been getting anywhere between $380,000 to $400,000. This year specifically, we received about $412,000, which is kind of a good news because we can add more to the different sections that the CDBG contains. As the CDBG, obviously, being a federal program, we have to follow specific guidelines. They're very strict when it comes to advertising the grant and publications and that sort of thing. So just to give you a little idea what we did, first we conducted the first public hearing on February of this year. And the idea was to basically inform the community and identify areas in the community where the money was gonna be basically placed. We also provided specific times and dates where the nonprofit organizations were able to submit their RFPs for public services and public facilities. The public services basically is related to nonprofits that work with low income sections of the community. Public facilities is basically buildings that they need attention that also cater to low income sections of the community. This is all specifically related to the city of Brunswick. Excuse me. We drafted the annual action plan, which is basically going to say to the public and to you what we're going to do this year upcoming and what exactly we're going to provide to the community. We held a second public hearing on April 5th, and we presented the annual action plan to the community. We went as far as informing about 175 public and private entities in the community of Brunswick. We also posted the annual action plan in all social media platforms. We also put it in the library. We ran a 30-day ad in the newspaper. So we tried to cover as much ground as possible. We also provided copies to the MPA so they can also be informed. So we pretty much did a lot of homework when it came down to informing the public about this grant. And we partnered with the Office of City Manager to make sure that the breakdown of the grant was very specific and basically fulfill the needs of the community of Brunswick. City Manager says we are mainly concentrating in the aspects of housing rehab or affordable housing and demolition. So what we did is we came up with this plan, and so you can see there on page 2. The first item is the MMH, also called the housing rehab. For that item, we allotted $209,000 with $914. With this amount of money, we're going to be able to fix and repair anywhere between 11 to 16 homes. Last year, I believe we fixed 13 homes. We do anything from replacing a roof, windows, air conditioning, flooring, doing a brand new bathrooms. As a matter of fact, today I went to check on a property we're doing 2 bathrooms for a family of 4. So those are the things that we do under this program. Then we have the the infrastructure aspect of it, which is public facilities. When we approve or we consider RSPs under the public services and the public facilities items, we created a board. And this board basically is responsible for choosing the entities that are going to get the money, not the city. And the reason why we did that is because this is basically the community saying this is what we want the money to go. For the past 2 years, the money has been going to homelessness and also to youth programs. Those are the 2 main areas where the funding has been going on the public services. Public facilities, this year, there was only 1 application, and that is going to the Veterans Village. They requested funding for a gate, security gate. And right now we are in the works of trying to see how much budget they have for that specific item, because the purpose of this is not just give them the money and then we're done, is to see how much of that money they have. And we're gonna fulfill that gap of $22,000 for them. So we know now they have the full amount for the gate. until they prove to us that they have the money, then we're not going to release the funding. So this is not something that we just write the check and say, hey, we'll see you next year. No, they have to show us that they have the balance of that money, so the gate is actually built. And part of the responsibilities that my department has, we keep an eye on actually the gate goes up. We take pictures, we document everything. And because HUD stipulates that we have to stick to certain guidelines, we do have to interview the workers doing the gate. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of red tapes that we have to go through, which we do follow. It takes time and effort, but we do follow it just to make sure we don't lose the funding. We allotted $64,000 for 6 nonprofits, and we increased the demolition by almost $30,000. I'm sorry, $20,000. This year, we're planning to do anywhere between 5 and 7. Little by little, we've been increasing that number. Obviously, the prices vary from house to house. Sometimes some of the properties that we demolish are more expensive than others. Some require more work, some require environmental reviews, and that puts a huge impact in the budget because we have to remove what any type of asbestos or toxins or whatever it is that is going to impact the community. So that adds to the budget. But and then also we like last year we reduced the admin aspect of the program by $30,000. So we cap it at $45,000. Previous years it was $75,000. Sitting with Manager McDuffie, City Manager McDuffie, she suggested cut that to $30,000, take that money and put it in housing and demolition, and it's been doing wonderful. I mean, it truly makes a huge difference. We try to advertise what we do in social media, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. People are happy that some of those homes are coming down that unfortunately they are not fixable, they're not repairable, they're just sitting there for some of them for 30 years. So we're really kind of it's a slow pace. You don't see much, but it's what we do in a spot. We take certain areas around, and we just do one at a time. If you were to put all that in one area, you can probably see a whole block coming down. But unfortunately, we can't just concentrate on one area, so we do it in different areas of the city. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what we're going to do this year. If you have any questions for me or any comments, I'll be happy to address those now.
How many nonprofits applied for funding?
10.
Did all 10 get?
No, only 7 got approved.
Okay. So, and I just wanted to say it so the public can hear. So nonprofits do have the ability to apply for grants, and the city, we do help people. So
oh yes,
every nonprofit, I just wanted the public to hear that.
Yep. No,
when they say that we
yes,
just saying help.
We educate, we reach out, we do a lot of work to make sure that nobody's left out. And correct. A lot of them sometimes show up late, so they wait for the next year. They come in, they get the application, they never come back. So it depends. But we do a lot of homework to make sure they get the proper information through different channels.
And then what's the ballpark to demolish like a house?
A house?
Yes.
Could go anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000.
Okay, so I just wanted you to repeat that too when people talk about blight, that it costs. Like
yes,
it's not just something the city can take down.
No,
so
this is not. These projects are not cheap.
Right.
If people think we can just kind of go and demolish, some of them take months. Some of them are difficult because of the structure, how it's set. And because they're old, some of them will contain asbestos. So we can't just go ahead and demolish. We have to go through a process, an abatement, I guess. You have to remove the asbestos first, and then you have the contractor demolish the property. So this is a process. This is not something we just, all of a sudden we just say, hey, you know what, let's take that house down. No.
Right.
How about lead-based paint? Are you having to remediate the lead-based paint now?
HUD, it puts more emphasis in asbestos. That's their main bulk of it. They're concerned because of the age of the structures in the city. A lot of them, the siding, the tile inside the kitchens and bathrooms I've noticed that that's the trend. Kitchens, bathrooms, and siding is the ones that contain the most asbestos. But we get lucky. I'm going to say probably 70% of the time, the houses are pretty much, we don't have to mitigate so much. So it's expensive.
Let me note also, we have talked about the fire department being able to train on some of the properties. and we met with DNR in regards to applying for that particular program. And we actually have to mitigate all of the asbestos, lead paint, even taking out some of the furniture to have it approved to finish the burn on those houses. So even that is a process that takes a long time. And it also takes I felt like it took away from the training aspect, because if you gut the house and then you burn it, it doesn't give you the ability to, I guess, mitigate through an emergency process those items that may cause issue during a real fire. But we are going to go ahead and proceed with that, which will help, again, not only our demolition process cost less, but also give training opportunities for our fire.
Can you let us know on the housing rehab amount, that 210,000? Are there people already lined up that qualify? I mean, do you already have a list working that?
Yes, we have right now. I believe we have about 16 families or units waiting. And what we do is we don't close the grant. The grant is 360. It continues, over and over. Right now, to the 16, we're working on 8. And what we try to do, because we're very limited with the contractors, we do batches of 4. So we do 2 and 2. And then when they're almost done with it, we just move into the next batch of 4 and so forth. So we keep rotating. We're trying to get that rhythm going. Obviously, every week we get applications. Some of them are rejected for different reasons. The financial aspect of it, the applicant is not low income. They think sometimes it's just a grant that anybody can apply. Sometimes they're not the owners. Sometimes the property is not repairable. It's just beyond repair, especially when it comes to foundation issues. So there's many factors that we have to look at the application itself to say, yes, this one it qualifies. But we look at everything. The whole idea is to qualify somebody, not to disqualify them. So we try to be as flexible as possible and work with those things that we have.
And all of your applicants have to own the homes, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And I'd like to also interject that David has done a fantastic job of one of the issues that we had when I first came here was there was a lot of old money and money that had not been used through our program, but he has been spending it and keeping everything very current. Our public hearings have had good attendance and just really moving forward with a lot of the items in the program. So appreciate the work that he's done. He's had some challenges with staffing, and regardless of that, have still gotten a lot of work done. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDuffie.
Appreciate that. I'd like to say that before any house is demolished, if there's anything salvageable, that it be attempted to salvage. I know most of what I've seen pictures of lately has not been deemed salvageable, but if there is anything in there, I want to spare a landfill. I mean, every board I can keep out of or we can, it's not me, every board we can keep, every brick we can keep out of a landfill. It can be reused. So I'd like to see us really attempt to do that.
Sure, we can look for options and
thank you
on that topic, definitely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Director Bravo, thank you, and Ms. George, thank you as well for your work that you guys put into this. If you can possibly, so it'll be for the record and publicly, and so I think for the edification of us, and we could tell those in the community, can you take us through the process and dates when 501c3s or nonprofits in our community should contact you, send in their applications? Like, can you walk through that process publicly for us so we know?
So the enrollment, I guess, if you want to call it, for RFP or to submit the RFP usually begins in February. We tried to extend it for a period of 3 weeks. Reason being is because we have specific deadlines that we need to meet with HOT. So we basically put the pressure on us, not on the applicants. So out of the 4 weeks that we have that window, 3 are only for submission of RFPs, and my staff only has 1 week to review everything, prepare everything, do summaries, and get the board set up so they can read everything and then choose whoever is going to get the money.
So if we wanted to advocate as a commission to nonprofits in the community, should we tell them, hey, you want to get your applications in January? When can they start getting those applications?
They should start on February. I don't have the specific date. I can forward that to you.
Okay.
But in February, March is kind of like the window. And that's the only time we open that is because it would be an advantage for others to have the application prior to that. We don't want that. What we want to do is once it's open, that's when you get the RFP.
Okay.
You have 3 weeks to get all the documents, your ducks in a row, and then you can submit the grant. We, as a matter of fact, set up office hours, 2 hours here, 4 hours here. We're open. You just call us, we'll put you in the schedule, and we can basically walk you through the entire process. So we kind of get ready for that specific time to make sure that we address all the questions that the community might have, and those who are submitting, obviously, the RFP.
And because what would be important to me is for us to be able to lock in on a specific date and then be able to over publicize that date coming up to the date. Because I know for me, I'm internal to the city government and not sure when to tell people to turn something in or even how they could serve on your board, because that's open as well. And you're looking for people to serve in that space, right?
Yes, we actually advertise that through the stakeholders that we have in our database. And we basically send out a massive email saying, hey, we're looking for board members. We tend to pick people from different areas of the community, faith organizations, law enforcement, firemen, attorneys. So we have a background of different people that, they're well versed and they understand how systems work and how a grant works.
Okay.
And those are the ones that basically, we don't get involved in any decision. We basically just guide them through the process and get them organized. And what we do, we just stand back and take notes, and we explain in detail what the budget is, and each one of them, they engage in their own arguments. We probably spend about 4 hours with them.
Okay. And the process to get on the board, is that around the same time, or do you want people to kind of?
We would typically start on December. I think we start
December?
we start sending emails asking people, hey, are you interested maybe in being part of the CDBG board? It's one meeting once a year. They don't have to do anything else other than just wait for the specific times and dates, and we'll provide all the details for each nonprofit a week before the meeting. So they have a week to read everything and get familiar with each nonprofit.
And are people who are receiving dollars from the board, are they on the board? Or if you are receiving dollars from this, you can't be on the board?
If they are part of a nonprofit that is applying, they have to basically step out of the conference room.
But they can be on the board. They'd have to recuse themselves.
Correct.
Okay. And the target areas that CDBG and us as a city have chosen for the past, I'm assuming 2 years, have been homelessness, housing and homeless.
Yeah, we mainly concentrated on agencies. The board decided to concentrate in homelessness and also in youth programs.
Okay.
The children was a big one last year. Youth and summer programs are basically were the heavy ones this year. It's still kind of the same, and some of the organizations are the same, and they cater to a youth and low income sections of the community, obviously for youth, and summer programs as well. So,
and could churches with summer programs apply? What is interesting to me, and I want to go through it really quickly, is a lot of these are larger named organizations who are well funded, and I'm okay with them receiving the dollars. There's truly no problem with me. But I also know that there are a lot of smaller micro 501c3s and nonprofits who literally just don't know how to do this process. And the reason I bring up churches is just being very honest, Black churches in the inner core of our community have a whole bunch of feeding programs, have a whole bunch of programs that between $5,000 and $15,000 would mean a lot to that program. And I just want to tell them how to really engage in this process so they could also receive that help.
That's a tricky question because these are faith-based organizations.
Okay.
And there might be a conflict with the federal government. So kind of like the state church kind of thing. You have to be careful with that.
Okay.
I would have to look and see exactly who they are and what they do. And
so
then,
if I was talking to a church, it would behoove them to have a nonprofit arm, like a separate nonprofit arm than their faith.
I'll give you an example. You could be a nonprofit, you could be a church or a congregation, but you have a wing of a nonprofit that, for example, caters to low income and provides food, for example. If you can submit the proper documentation to prove that it is actually a nonprofit and you're doing that service, then the church aspect of it doesn't play any role into it.
Perfect.
So that would be, you know, kind of like a clear separation between church and state.
The reason I bring that up is there is a church in our neighborhood that does something called a backpack program where they put food into children's backpacks as they go home. Inside of the current farm bill, they are changing amendments inside of that farm bill where they wouldn't be able to provide the food at the rate that they're doing it now. And they would get hit with about a $70,000 gap between what they're providing to our children coming from Bros, Millette, and others. They are based in a church. And I'm assuming the church just kind of fundraises and does it themselves, but I'll make sure to ask them. I just wanted to
you can always, I mean, we don't have to, and this is for you and also for the community. You don't have to wait until February to, you know, come around and say, hey, what do I do for CDBG? No, I have people come in all times of the year asking me, hey, how do I work this out?
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I have somebody Monday from St. Francis. They're looking for funding for security. And she came in and we had a talk for 30 minutes. I explained the whole process. Now she knows, and we added her email to our stakeholder list. Time comes, we send the email out. She's going to get the email now. Now she knows what to do.
Got it.
She's going to get the RFP in that email, and now she can go ahead and apply.
So if we got people have questions or we want to point them in your direction.
Oh, yes, you can send them right to my department, and we'll make sure they're well informed. We'll provide the specific dates. We get the contact info from them, and then when it's time, we'll send the email.
Okay.
And they'll get the RFP, and you know, we just take it from there.
Perfect. Last question I have.
Sure.
Is it possible for you to coalesce all of the dollars that we've spent through CDBG and the city funds that we have through here on homelessness? So if you could just take the 501c3s that are generally working in that space, whom you all have approved over the past 2 years, and just give me a number, that'd be great.
I can definitely get that for you.
Perfect. I don't have any other questions.
You know, I've got a question I'd like to ask. We use the term nonprofit. All nonprofits that we deal with have a 501c3 designation.
That is correct. What we do with the, and actually we do this also with contractors. We run everything through the SAMS.gov site.
Through who?
SAMS.gov. Basically, that's a federal website in which they are assigned a specific number. And when you're a nonprofit, in the past I guess they call it the EIN. Some of the nonprofits switch now because of the federal new laws, I guess they come into place, but they switch the numbers to a different code, I guess. And so what you do when you run that number, it basically brings up any type of red flags in that specific nonprofit, that contractor, or whoever it is that's doing business with the government. So we do have, you know, check and balances when somebody submits an RFP. We'll look at everything. They're required to submit a budget. They're required to have a specific target, a specific percentage. So we do our best to make sure that the money's going where it's supposed to go. So
super. Mighty good, David.
Mayor, I'd just like to state that, you know, we will have a PIO coming on board. And one of the things that I would like for them to do is to go to each of our departments and look at how we can better develop marketing of those aspects of getting the word out and, you know, working on it year round, like you said, because I think it would help for us to just continually promote the programs and things that we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
CBDG really advertises in the Brunswick News. I can tell you, I very seldom pick up paper. There's not something in there. So I don't know. I guess you're on the website too.
Yeah, I like media. I like, you know, my background is communication. So I try to, with the limited budget we have, I try to promote the program. I try to promote what we do and city, you know, the platforms that the city has, Facebook and Twitter. So, you know, I might shoot a videos, something small, but it makes a splash. You know, people, you can tell that people are paying attention. That's for sure. I can guarantee you that they're looking.
Yes.
So we get a lot of feedback. I'm going to say probably 80% is positive. The other 20, you know, it's here and there. But I think, you know, like Ms. McDuffie is saying, with that new person, I think that would be one of the bigger things that I would like to highlight on my department, what we're doing as far as housing and demolition. So
right. I will open it for a motion if we don't have any other questions.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Community Development Block Grant for fiscal year 2023 annual action plan as presented.
Hearing first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We will now be adjourned for executive session for litigation.
Motion to adjourn for litigation.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We are adjourned for litigation.
So the main thing is because I had
We are back from executive session. Call us to order. No action was taken. We will now take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second? Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.